Welcome back to the Handy Tech channel. This week we've got stacks and stacks of sanding to get through, and also the installation of the lights and a little bit of prep for painting the floor. I'm just using an orbital sander to knock off the bulk of the plaster, and then I can come back later with a hand sander and get sort of a smoother finish, and it looks a little bit nicer. The hand sand is way easier to get into the tight spots and right up underneath the skirting there. The orbital sand is quite aggressive, and you've got to be pretty careful that you don't sort of tilt the sander when you're sanding off any of the plaster, because it can dig and gouge in. So yeah, I'm just sort of going back and forward over with the hand sander on the areas I've already done with the orbital sander, and just sort of making it smooth and trying to get a nicer finish. Also, you'll see I'm carrying sort of a little dustpan brush there, and that's really good. The bristles are awesome for breaking out the plaster on the sanding pads and just sort of getting as much of the loose plaster off the walls as possible while I'm going. And sometimes you've just got to get a piece of sandpaper by itself to get in any of the difficult areas that your tooling can't get into. The orbital sander throws up so much dust, and at first I closed the laundry door so that I would stop any of the plaster going into other areas of the house, but even with the sliding door off, there was just way too much dust in the room, and yeah, it was really hard to see and breathe. So what I ended up doing was turning on the aircon and then closing all the windows in the house, and that way there was some positive pressure that built up. And then if I cracked the laundry door 10 centimeters or so, then all that air was rushing through and pushing all the plaster out, which made it so much better. Anyway, that's pretty much a couple hours sanding done, and once I'd finished that, I used a broom to sort of brush off the walls and try to get the bulk of the dust off. And then I had to kind of figure out what order I wanted to do the next steps of the renovation. Was I going to paint the walls first before I did the floor? Was I going to do the floor first and do the roof? I decided to do the roof first because I didn't really want to drop any paint on the floor after being painted, and I also don't want to spill or splash anything on the walls from the roof, so that was the next job. I went to Bunnings and got some sealing white. Then I could get my paint set up and start prepping to paint the roof. And here's a little tip: just run your hand back and forward over the roller before you put it onto your brush and put paint on it, and you can sort of get off any of the loose fibres that end up stuck in the paint and just look really nasty. Then I gave the ceiling a couple coats of paint, and this paint dries pretty flat, so you don't have to be like super precise when you put it on. Just kind of put it on thick and it'll dry out alright. So that was pretty simple, and I also just used a little hand brush to go around and get in the edges up against the skirting, and the final finish turned out pretty nice. After that, I could put the lights in. And since I had one of these brand new vents, I just put it in anyway. The old one was sort of yellowed and just looked real nasty against the newly painted ceiling. And that's basically as far as I went with the paint for now. The next job is to prep the floor and use the rust-oleum tile transformation kit to sort of paint the old tiles and give it a spruce up. Before I could do that, there's a whole lot of cleaning of the floor that needs to be done, so I use this attachment on my vacuum cleaner that was, I think it's meant for cleaning fly screens, but it worked pretty well to lift up some of the dirt and stuff between the tiles and just get rid of as much plaster as I could. After I'd vacuumed again, I used some just regular floor cleaner and boiling water and gave the floor a few mops, and that was pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you're looking forward to part 4, which should be out soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.